Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another episode of In the Library of Graphic Literature. Live on tape from a hidden location somewhere deep in the bowels of downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, the oldest settlement in North America. So we got lots of age to us. Before I do anything, speaking of downtown St. John's, I'd like to wish Jason Conway and Downtown Comics a happy 20th anniversary. It's 2 decades now of them serving the comic collecting public of St. John's, and he does a hell of a job. Definitely the friendliest comic book store owner I know, anyways. So what do we have today? Today, well, we'll do a bit of unwrapping, have a look at a few books I have here. I'll even actually talk about one of my favorite collections of books, the Library of American Comics. Speaking of libraries. But before I get into that, let's have a look at the new books here. And I forgot my my blade here for opening my books. Well, for opening some of them. Some of them are wrapped, some of them are not. So, first of all, let's start here with this cool little stack here I got. The first book here, first new book of for this week is Adventures into Darkness. Woo! I love this is from PS Artbooks. They're actually kind of really cool old-time horror and mystery type of stories. One thing I have to say that I do like about these PS Artbooks is that they leave in the ads, which are pretty hilarious. BB guns, muscle men, but some great artwork mixed in there with it too. Pretty darn cool, hey? So, this one has people from George Russo's to Alex Toth, Jack Katz, the immortal George Tuscan, and many, many more. I've been collecting the PS Artbooks for quite a while now. There's something about them. They have a certain charm to them that I like. So yeah, Adventures into Darkness, Volume 1. So that means there's more. Now, this is something that's interesting, actually. You may say to yourself, Wallace, have you lost your mind? And in some ways I have, a long time ago. But the interesting thing about this is that it hides a different book. For some reason, Unknown Worlds was packaged in a slipcase from that. Now, of course, Unknown Worlds here, this once again is the same as with the other ones there. Some very cool horror stuff. And it's funny because I'm a person who generally, I'm not a huge horror fan, but saying that I have a lot of horror books and stuff like that, but they're old-time horror as opposed to the chop them up, imprison them in the basement type of story. I like these old-fashioned sort of kitschy type of horror and suspense and terror, as it says here. So another PS art book. This is Volume 1 from 1952. So, and actually I think this is the only volume for this. Issues 2 to 5. Oh, and 1. So, check that out. And maybe when you get yours will actually come in the proper slipcase. Oh well, what can one do? The next is actually a personal favorite of mine. This is a collection of stories called The Green Hand and Other Stories. As soon as I seen this in the previews and seen the cover, it brought me right back to 1977 and heavy metal. I've seen a lot of these stories actually in heavy metal, and I loved them. It's they're just amazing. They're bizarre, but they're really, really cool. I loved these stories when I was younger, and when I seen it, I just had to get it. Very, very wild, different type of stories. I mean, when heavy metal came out in the 1970s, there really wasn't anything like this. Most of your comics in your comic book stores and all that were really your superhero types, and of course nothing wrong with that. I love the capes too. But myself and my creative partner, the late Jerry Porter, when we were kids, when we came upon heavy metal, it was like a revelation to us. These were comics that were, it wasn't superheroes. There was swearing, there was nudity, there was amazing art, there was Mobius, there was Drouillet, and there was Clavelou, I guess is the way to pronounce her name. But absolutely stunning. Anyone out there who's a big fan of European art, you got to get this. You got to. Oh, and now time to pull out the blade and open this book once again. Watch as I carefully start the cut here. Then once I get a cut, I usually start to rip and tear and slice it open in such a way that I don't bend the crap out of the corners or stuff like that. Oh, there we go. Anyway, this little beauty here is volume 2 or book 2 of Outcast by Mr. Kirkman, who we all know from The Walking Dead, and Asaceta, an amazing artist. This is actually this is one of the more underrated books I think out there. I absolutely love it. As a matter of fact, this is one I just can't wait to get at this. I love the artwork. It's just so simple, and it's almost like a mixture between Mazzucchelli and Toth. It's about the best I can say, but it has its own special charm. It starts out very slow in the very first book, and it takes a while sort of to get into it, but Mr. Kirkman got me hooked with this one, so I highly recommend you give this one a try. This one gets the kiss of the week. I'd probably neck it up with most of my books here, actually. Okay, here's another one here now. Let's pop this little baby open here. And this, of course, hang on, slice and dice, as the mutants used to say. Okay, this one is Batman by Doug Moench and the immortal Kelly Jones. I always loved Jones's artwork. He's obviously heavily influenced by such people as Ghastly Ingalls, Wrightson, and a lot of other people, but I always liked his artwork. There's just something super cool about Mr. Jones. So I highly recommend this. I always loved his his work on that Dead Man series a few years back, and I hope that sooner or later they do that one. But this one, in the meantime, this one's going to have to do. So once again, I recommend this too. I guess I recommend just about anything I buy. Oh, let's see here. Ooh, Starstruck. Starstruck. Old Prologers Never Die. And this is a book by Layton Lee and the amazing M.W. Cluedo, otherwise known as Michael Cluedo. Well, I've been a huge fan of Cluedo since the 70s. Everything from his work, since his work on The Shadow, and then right up through when his first work on Starstruck, when he first did this years ago, and then this series. Cluedo is one of the giants for me anyway. He heavily influenced me growing up as a comic book collector and an artist. His artwork is just absolutely simply stunning. He, along with the late Bernie Wrightson and the late Jeffrey Catherine Jones and Barry Windsor Smith, once worked all in a studio together called The Studio during the 70s, so you can imagine just what a joy that must have been. but the artwork's absolutely spectacular. So try to check this one out. Okay, we're popping right along here. Now these last two books, these are, I'll end with this one. These last two books, this is one of my favorites. I could talk about Peanuts all day long. Now I don't know how many of you out there, I'm supposing a lot of you out there picked up the Complete Peanuts when it was coming out from Fantagraphics. And Complete Peanuts was great, of course, because it had the Complete Peanuts run right from the start, right up until his final days. 50 years of Peanuts in a beautiful set of 25 or 26 volumes, whatever. Anyway, in the Complete Peanuts, they do have the the Sunday strips, as they call them. But due to printing concerns and the like, Fantagraphics decided to go with those in black and white. And, I still collected the Complete Peanuts because, hey, it was Peanuts. I didn't care. But then a couple of years ago, they decided, actually, let's put out a set of books with the Sunday comics in their full colored glory. So, I do have these already in black and white and all that, but I had to get it. Look at this, the simplicity and beauty of the Peanuts gang. I don't know how many of you are out there are big Peanuts fans, but I can't get enough. So these are cool. These are all, like I say, it's all just Sunday strips and all that. It's great because then you get a lot in one book here. It's usually about 5 years worth of Sundays in one book. And like I say, once again, to any of you Peanuts fans, even those who did buy the Complete Peanuts, pick up this one, Peanuts Every Sunday. This is another one that I have to say, I love you. But yeah, great book. Well worth the while. And last, but by no means least, is Outcasts, Lil Abner. This is the 51 to 52 complete Sundays and dailies. And this is yet another book from the fine folks at the Library of American Comics, whom of course I've talked about for years and years, and whose books I absolutely adore. To me there's nothing like a book from the Library of American Comics. They really are the premier publisher today of classic comic strips and other things. And I'm lucky, actually, and even continuing right up to today with this volume, I actually have a complete set of the Library of American Comics, every single volume. And why not? They're absolutely stunning books. They cover everyone, all kinds of strips from Lil Abner here to, and I have them right over here just out of view, Dick Tracy, Little Orphan Annie, Rip Kirby, Steve Canyon, Lil Abner, of course, Skippy, Bloom County, the cool Disney books that they're putting out, and a series of like the Superman, Batman, Spider-Man collections of the comic strips from them. And like I say, I could go on talking hours and hours about the Library of American Comics, but I just suggest you go out and, peruse them in your local store, and, you don't have to buy the entire collection like myself, but find a strip that you love, whether it's Dick Tracy or even like their Tarzan. They're actually coming out with a set of Star Wars books, and Starhawks, and there's another one that was coming out soon. Absolutely amazing. So like I say, just have a poke through. Lil Abner, I loved Lil Abner. Even though, later in his life Al Cap became a bit of a schmozzle, kind of like me. The early work and all that is absolutely fabulous. And like I say, the production values are just sky high, I find, for these. The colors are very well done. The layouts are great. And they have great introductory articles and materials leading into them. a lot of times. So a lot of times, you know, you'll get a little bit of the history and just a taste for the artist and stuff like that. So I highly recommend anything from the Library of American Comics. And speaking of which, I think it was, what was it, 2007, I guess, was when they started. But the very first one, and this is sort of like my good memory for today, the very first one that I picked up out of all their books was this one here. I actually bought this in New York. Terry and the Pirates, the complete Terry and the Pirates. I got the entire set, all 6 volumes. And Milton Caniff, of course, for all you out there who may not know him, is an absolutely stunning artist. I love these strips because they once again they have the they have both the Sundays and they have the weekly strips. And in this you get to see the true genius of Milton Caniff. The man, he really knew how to spot his blacks. His composition is next to no one. He's absolutely one of my top 10 comic book artists, or comic strip. I guess comic strip, but I guess comic influences, graphic literature influences of all time. Would have been amazing what he would have done if he had just been in comics by himself. Caniff, of course, inspired an entire generation of artists from, oh God, from Alex Toth to right on down to today, to people like Franco Francavilla, myself, Matt Wagner, and a lot of other great artists were influenced by this beautiful man and his amazing work. And like I say, the Library of American Comics, really go out there and grab yourself up a couple of them. They're just soaked in history and wonderful art. This is another one. I hate to do this. I have to kiss that one too. So I guess that's just about all. Oh, let's see what I got in my reading stack. Over here I got a huge stack of books here. And I figured I'd just grab a couple off just to have a look at what I'm reading here. Here's 3 anyway. I'm going to quickly go through 3 that's in my reading stack here. They're not off the good old spinner rack, but hey, what can you do? First of all, and you'll notice that there, see that bookmark here, so I'm still in the middle of reading this. From Don Simpson, the classic series, Border Worlds. I'm loving this book so far. So I recommend this to everyone out there. A lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Mr. Simpson and his amazing works. So run out and grab this one. Absolutely beautiful. Here's one I picked up recently and I started to read. Just a lot of times I pick up books because people have recommended them to me or stuff like that. And this is one called Giant Days. And this one is really super cool. It's great. It's about a bunch of girls and a bunch of women in university or college or whatever. And it's an absolutely amazing book. I laughed. I'd cry if I could. But I'd highly recommend it to. I know there are a lot of women love this book, but to me, this is a book for everyone. So check it out, Giant Days, a beauty. And let's see, last but not least, and definitely not least, another thing that's in my stack, and you can see I'm about halfway through this book. This is volume 3. This is the master edition of Lock and Key from Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. An absolutely amazing horror series with art that's just off the hook. It's detailed, it's stunning, it's without doubt. I think he's one of my favorite new artists. If you're looking for a good horror comic to read, this is it. Absolutely recommend this. I had this in the other format too, the other hardcovers, and there were 6 editions. But the Master Edition has about 2 of those per, so there's only 3 in this set. But I mean, they're worth it. I love the cover, the embossing. I mean, this production values. So, oh, and that's another one from IDW. So, big shout out to IDW anyway for this episode. And why not? It's a damn amazing company. Anyway, I think that's about it for this week. I can tell you next week is going to be Omnibus Heaven, because I got a pile of omnibuses coming in here. I'll bring them in and unwrap them and chat about them. The one that I'm looking forward to the most, of course, is the Jack Kirby's Fourth World Omnibus, which contains all of it. And Fourth World has always been one of my favorite comic book series, so I'm looking forward to unwrapping that and showing that to you folks, to you good folks out there. Anyway, I guess that's it. And here from Snowy St. John's, I send out all my greetings to all you comic book collectors and book collectors out there. I love you all. Okay, I'll see you folks next week. In the meantime, keep on reading.